The cool San Francisco fog often felt like a comforting embrace, a soft blanket over the city's sharp edges. At 20 years old, living here, I'd built a life that was finally beginning to feel like my own, a stark contrast to the turbulent years of my mid-teens. I was studying art history at a community college, spending my weekends exploring the city's countless hidden gems, the vibrant street art in the Mission District, the quiet, breathtaking views from Twin Peaks. Most days, I felt a sense of peace that had long eluded me, a hard-won serenity after the storm that had been my adolescence. But even years later, the echoes of Dee's abuse resonated, a faint, disquieting hum beneath the surface of my otherwise calm existence. When I was 14, Dee, an upperclassman, had systematically dismantled my world. He started subtly, an older boy showing interest in a younger, naive girl. It quickly escalated into a suffocating nightmare of stalking, catfishing, grooming, sexual assault, and relentless emotional abuse. He was a master manipulator, twisting my reality until I didn't know what was real anymore, what was true, or who I even was. He even hit me once, a shocking, brutal reminder of the physical power he wielded over me. The experience hollowed me out, leaving me a shadow of myself, constantly looking over my shoulder, perpetually questioning my own sanity. Even after the active abuse was over, his insidious influence persisted. He knew that talking about what he had done was incredibly difficult for me, a wound too raw to expose to many. Only a handful of my closest friends knew the full, agonizing details. He tried to get to them first, attempting to poison their minds against me. There were moments, terrifying moments, when I thought he might succeed, when the bonds of our friendship stretched perilously thin under the weight of his lies. Thankfully, in the end, my truest friends saw through his machinations, their loyalty a lifeline when I felt myself drowning. But Dee wasn't one to give up easily. When he realized my closest circle was impenetrable, he shifted his focus to other friends, people I loved dearly, but whom I hadn't been able to bring myself to confide in about the sheer horror of what I had endured. These were individuals who were less likely to know the gruesome specifics of his past behavior. He went to them before I could, twisting the narrative with breathtaking audacity, painting me as the abuser, the stalker, the aggressor. When I tried to tell them the truth, to explain the true nature of his depravity, he would simply retort that I was lying to cover up the abuse I had supposedly inflicted on him. He would spin horrifyingly detailed stories, each one a grotesque mirror image of something he had done to me, only with me cast as the villain. The truly sick part was that every single one of the stories he told them was true, but in reverse. He had done those exact things to me. I remember one particular instance vividly. He had blown up my mom's phone, feigning deep concern for my mental health, suggesting with a sinister sweetness that she should have me placed in a mental facility. The next day, at school, I spotted one of my friends, a girl I had known since elementary school, and instinctively reached out for a hug. She recoiled, pushing me away with an icy expression. "Nah, don't touch me. I know what you did to Dee." My stomach churned and the air left my lungs. When I asked her, my voice trembling, what she thought I had done, she relayed Dee's twisted tale. He'd told her that I was the one who had contacted his mom, trying to get him institutionalized. The kicker? He'd faked screenshots to prove it, using one of those apps where you can get a fake phone number. The sheer level of his manipulation was terrifying, a chilling testament to his psychological prowess. Watching him, I could see him employing the same damn tactics on these girls that he had used to brainwash me. It made me physically sick. He got really, truly obsessed with one of them in particular. A vibrant, kind girl we'll call S. I could see the familiar signs, the escalating intensity that signaled she was on the verge of becoming another one of his victims. At this point, S hated me because of the lies D had meticulously woven, but I didn't care. My personal feelings of hurt and betrayal were overshadowed by a much stronger imperative. I had to get her away from him. I just wanted her to be safe. I needed undeniable proof of the kind of monster he truly was, not just for S, but for all the others he was ensnaring. But what could I do? I didn't have any proof. D had manipulated me into deleting all of the concrete evidence I had against him while I was still in the throes of his active abuse. How he achieved that is a whole other can of worms, a testament to how completely brainwashed he had me. He had emptied my phone, my computer, even my cloud storage of anything that could incriminate him. That's when the memory, like a flicker of distant light, came back to me, the catfishing part of what he had put me through. He used to do it for multiple, sinister reasons. Mostly, it was to manipulate me, to tear down my self-esteem, to warp my sense of reality in multiple ways. One of his favorites was to pretend to be people from school, from my own social circle, and hardcore bully me over my deepest insecurities. He'd then swoop in, as himself, to comfort me, making me feel like he was the only person I had left, the only one who understood. But another significant reason he used these fake personas was to get information about me that he could later use. In those cases, he'd pretend to be an online friend for a while, patiently gaining my trust, asking seemingly casual questions about my day, my plans, where I was going later. He'd then, coincidentally, show up to places he knew I'd be, feigning surprise. This was where I decided to give him a small, precise taste of his own medicine. The plan formed in my mind, cold and clear. I knew I couldn't fail. The stakes were too high, not just for S, but for the fundamental principle of justice, for the notion that people like D couldn't simply walk away, leaving a trail of broken lives in their wake. I set up a fake Instagram profile, meticulously crafting every detail. I picked a girl I knew he would be attracted to, someone who fit his superficial ideal. She was a model, but a very underground one, someone who only really had a following in another country, far away from San Francisco. This was crucial. It allowed me to source numerous pictures to make the profile look incredibly real without running the risk that he would recognize her from any local circles or mutual acquaintances. I came up with a plausible story for her online presence. Something in the bio about how she got locked out of her old account, a common enough occurrence to make the fact that the account was recently created seem less suspicious. I said she was a college student from the other side of the country, somewhere geographically distant enough to explain why she wouldn't be easily accessible or have local ties. To further solidify the illusion, I followed the school she supposedly attended, several organizations within it, and several random students to make her seem like a legitimate member of that community. I painstakingly posted several selfies, carefully selected to look authentic and varied, pictures of the campus, some generic, inspiring quotes, and other mundane, everyday stuff to flesh out her online life and make it appear real, lived in. Then, I started following a bunch of accounts that I knew he interacted with, mostly meme pages, fan pages for popular shows or games, and other niche interests that were common ground for his online activity. I spaced out my posts over the course of several days, not wanting to seem too eager or fake. I meticulously interacted with a bunch of the accounts I followed, leaving thoughtful comments, liking posts, and waiting patiently for several of them to follow me back, further legitimizing the profile. I made sure the account didn't look suspiciously new, that it had a believable history of activity and interaction. And then, after a week of agonizing waiting and meticulous preparation, I finally followed his account. I made sure to make it seem like I had just stumbled upon his account because we followed several of the same popular pages. The digital breadcrumbs were all in place. With the stage set, I finally started interacting with his posts. I made a few comments that I knew, with chilling certainty, would feed his inflated ego, comments that were just complimentary enough to be noticed, but not so effusive as to be suspicious. And then I waited. It didn't take long. He direct messaged me, asking to be friends, within hours of my last comment. The bait was taken. From that moment on, I played the part of the unsuspecting, admiring online friend. I fed into every lie he told me, every exaggerated tale, every veiled manipulation. It was sickening, a constant performance that felt like a betrayal of my own integrity, but I knew it was necessary. I acted like a friend, just as he had done to me with his insidious personas, cultivating a false intimacy designed to extract information. And the dude, true to form, just wouldn't shut up. He went on and on, detailing a supposed sexual relationship he had with S. My blood ran cold, but I knew with absolute certainty that this was not true. He had always done this. When he developed an obsession with someone and was trying to manipulate them, but it was taking a while to break them down, he would talk about his fantasies as if they were already a reality. I had already seen him do this multiple times during my own ordeal with him, and I knew exactly what this was. A horrific projection of his twisted desires, an attempt to make his fantasies feel real even to himself. The way he talked about her, and a few of the other people I was also worried about, but mostly S, was absolutely vile. His words painted a grotesque picture, dripping with a possessive, objectifying language that made my skin crawl. It was an emotional and psychological drain, forcing myself to listen, to feign interest, to encourage him to reveal more of his depravity. Every fabricated compliment felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I kept up the act for a few weeks, forcing myself to endure his incessant messages, his grotesque fantasies, until I was 100% positive I had enough evidence. And I discovered a lot more than I had even anticipated, something truly horrifying. I don't want to get into the other stuff too much, as it still makes me feel sick to my stomach, but it was bad. Truly, profoundly bad. This dude, it turned out, was also obsessed with one of our lunch ladies from high school. It was to the point where she was genuinely scared for her and her children's safety, living in a constant state of low-grade terror. But she didn't know what to do about it because, like me, she didn't have concrete proof. She had gut feelings, unsettling incidents, but nothing tangible. After what he said to me, however, I did. I had the proof that could free her from that silent dread. It added a whole new layer of urgency, a broader purpose to my painful deception. After I had everything I needed, every sickening detail, every vile confession, I screenshotted everything. Every single message, every picture, every piece of evidence of his malicious intent. My fingers flew across the screen, a grim determination fueling my actions. The sheer volume of evidence I had amassed was overwhelming, a stark testament to the depth of his depravity. Then, with a profound sense of finality and a mix of disgust and grim satisfaction, I deleted the fake account. The click of the delete button was incredibly satisfying, like severing a cancerous limb. My first priority was S at this point. S and I were no contact, a consequence of D's malicious smear campaign. I couldn't reach out to her directly without risking her immediate dismissal, fueled by his lies. So I sent the screenshots about S to a mutual friend of ours, someone I trusted implicitly, and who knew a piece of my past with D. I explained the situation, detailing the lengths to which I had gone to expose him. My friend was horrified, her messages expressing a mixture of shock and profound sadness. Without hesitation, she sent all of the screenshots to S, and S, clearly, was even more horrified. The truth, in undeniable digital form, hit her like a physical blow. She blocked D on everything, severing all ties. Then, she reached out to me, apologizing profusely for believing him over me. Her words were a balm to a wound I hadn't realized was still so open, a validation I hadn't known I so desperately craved. The tears I shed weren't of sorrow, but of relief, of a long-overdue reconciliation. Next, I turned my attention to the lunch lady. I sent my mom all of the screenshots I had gathered about Dee's disturbing obsession with her. I didn't know how to go about sharing these with the lunch lady directly. She was my lunch lady, a figure of authority and a kind face from my high school days, but not someone I had a personal connection with outside of that context. Lucky for me, though, my mom is a hairstylist, and by a stroke of pure chance, she just so happened to be the lunch lady's stylist. So, my mom, understanding the gravity of the situation, spilled all the beans at their next appointment. That's when it came out how scared this poor woman had been of him, how she had been living in silent terror, afraid to speak up without proof, fearing for her children's safety. My mom reassured her, explained the evidence, and promised to help her take the necessary steps. The screenshots, a veritable digital dossier of Dee's vile machinations, began to circulate. They spread like wildfire through the circles he had once controlled, his lies and deceptions finally laid bare for everyone to see. Every single person I had been worried about, every individual he had targeted or was in the process of targeting, managed to get away from him. By doing what I did, by risking my own peace to expose him, everyone around him finally saw his true colors. The carefully constructed facade he had maintained for years crumbled, and he lost pretty much everybody he had under his control at the time. He had played with fire for so long, burning others with his malicious intent, and finally he got burned himself. Every time I think about it now, a quiet smile touches my lips. I managed to protect so many people from going through what I went through, or worse. The thought of S, the lunch lady, and countless others being free from his poisonous influence fills me with a profound sense of satisfaction. And in the process, I gave him a tiny sliver of a taste of his own damn medicine. The very tactics he had used to torment me turned back on him. I like to hope that he was paranoid for a good while after that, constantly wondering who was watching, who knew what, just like I was for so many years. He deserved to feel that unsettling dread, that constant vigilance, that fear of exposure. And I, finally, was free.